Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, as you can probably tell by the props around me, and if you're only an audio listener, why are you only an audio listener when Dirty Martini is now also accompanied by video for the past I don't know how many episodes? So you should be watching to the video unless you're driving, or like don't watch the video if you're driving. But I feel like if you are an audio listener, come back later when you're not driving and take a look at the props around me because they are a hint of the fact that today's episode is extra special. Because today, the 10th of March, we all collectively, as Dirty Martini people, are celebrating Dirty Martini's birthday. 2 years ago, Dirty Martini was born, and my life was fully changed. But before we dive deeper into this, and I actually don't know what we're going to dive into today because to be honest, I knew I wanted to podcast to commemorate the occasion, but I'm not approaching this episode with any plans, any ideas. So may the odds be ever in my favor. So let me introduce you to the stuff today. So we have obviously the number two balloon, which I really wanted to put on the wall, but then I was like, it's not really sticking. So she's over here. And then we have one of my favorite bouquets I've ever created. So we have these red roses that you see, I bought for myself for the 8th of March. These white tulips that you see are the ones I bought for myself today. And I don't know if you can see it, the centerpiece is this red pink tulip. Well, it's red, pink, and orange, and white, and yellow. It's a beautiful tulip. And it was given to me by this, well, it was not necessarily given to me. I went and I asked for it. So basically, on the 7th of March, this man had stopped in front of my workplace with a ginormous cart full of tulips, and he was giving them away to women as a gift, an early gift for the 8th of March, International Women's Day. And I went there because I'm normally very, very shy and I would never go and ask for something, but I was really pushed to do this by my boss. So I went there and I got myself a tulip. I got her a tulip, and it was really, really nice. What I didn't necessarily love was when these guys approached the man and were like, why are you only giving them to women when also deserve flowers? And they had him give them tulips, and he kind of reluctantly did so. And it's like, can we have one thing? Can at least International Women's Day be about women? But it's okay because today we're focusing on positive stuff. I also tried to do my hair, but I just, yeah, I'm obviously wearing my Dirty Martini tank top, and I had makeup on, but I just, I I had to, like, I took a shower and then I was like, oh, I'll just redo it for when I'm podcasting. And then guys, I want you to know that I am fighting demons trying not to fall asleep right now because I have been sleeping so terribly for the past few weeks. I wake up multiple times per night for a prolonged period of time. I don't know why. I feel like it's something anxiety related. I feel like it's my birthday related. Um and it's just I'm unable to properly rest. So yeah, I really wanted to take a nap before recording, but then I was like, oh, if I nap now, I won't be able to fall asleep later. And I need to do a presentation tomorrow for which I have not prepared at all because I really wanted to rest today despite not really resting today. And one of the main reasons I'm exhausted, but also emotionally charged, but also emotionally depleted, but not in a negative way, is let me just show you the star of the show, the prop of all props. I'm going to put the microphone down for headphone users. I apologize for what this may cause you. Okay, that wasn't that bad. I'm really hoping that by me moving, I don't tip over this vase because it would really suck if I had to sleep on a wet mattress. But anyways, honestly, I would rather the mattress take the thing than the microphone or the laptop because, anyways, so what we have gathered here today to celebrate is not only Dirty Martini's birthday, but the cake I made for Dirty Martini's birthday. Guys, I just want you to look at her. Obviously, again, if you're driving, don't look at her. Don't look at her. Look at her when you're not driving. Look at her when you've parked. And don't look at her at a red light when you're parked. So, this is the cake I made with my own two hands. I'm showing one because with the other, I'm holding the cake. Completely from scratch. Like, I mean, the layers from scratch, the cream from scratch, everything is made from scratch. And I'm so impressed and I'm so proud. And honestly, so the thing is, I decided that this year, because last year I also made a cake for Dirty Martini's birthday. Obviously, back then, Dirty Martini was not a video podcast, so you couldn't really see it, although you can see it on Dirty Martini Pod Instagram. Um, and I tried to create this martini glass shape, but it was quite difficult and it ended up being quite ginormous. And I had to eat alongside my housemate's cake for, I want to say, 10 days every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And this is also a big cake. I know it may not look like this, like it is, but it is a very big cake. It is a very heavy cake. And I will tell you about my experience creating that beauty. But before we do that, let's obviously light the candles. Um, as I do this, I want to say, I'll obviously develop this further in the episode. I'm so incredibly thankful to each and every one of you. I know there's people who have been here since the very first episode, and I cherish you a lot. I am forever grateful that you allow me this space to build this platform to express myself. And I don't take it for granted. This podcast is my favorite thing I have ever created. And 2 years in, I am more motivated than ever. I am honestly, I know this is going to sound cocky, but I'm so incredibly proud of myself and proud of what I create because I believe that what I create is of quality. And I'm too many more Dirty Martini episodes. Yay! Okay, let me put her away. I might take another look before I put her away. It says yap, by the way, which ironically in Bulgarian looks like chag, which means charm. So yeah, look at her. Look at her. Beauty, she's grace, she's everything. And I promised my housemates that we're going to eat cake today. It is almost 11 and I'm just now starting to podcast. So girls, I apologize. We might have to eat tomorrow because I know you'll go to bed early, unlike me. Um, Maybe I should learn from you, but doesn't matter. I'm really debating if I should eat a piece now. I mean, I spent so much time making that cake. Making that cake took me 2 days, and I just really don't want to cut into it. I just wanted to sit there and for me to look at it because it's just so pretty. And basically, if you go to Dirty Martini's podcast and Instagram, and you see the cake I created last year and you see the cake I made this year, I promise you, you will also be impressed by how much my cake making abilities have improved, despite me not having made a cake since then at all. I mean, I've made a cheesecake and that's it. but I've not baked layers, I've not made buttercream. And the thing is, last year, when I was making the buttercream, this is trigger warning for all bakers. I apologize for what I'm about to say. Last year, when I was making the buttercream, I didn't have an electric mixer, and making buttercream with just a handheld mixer, like, acoustic, like analog, without the digitalization, the electronic part of it, I feel like that's just, there is a special layer in Dante Alighieri's Inferno, which is just for that, because making buttercream by hand sounds like a nightmare. But I didn't have a mixer, and I didn't have any money to buy a mixer, because I was like, what is the point of me like spending 20, 30 euros on a mixer that I'm just going to use once? Because in my day-to-day life, I hardly ever bake, because I love baking. Don't get me wrong. I love baking so much. I used to be a baker before I was a cook. But the oven I have here is as big as a microwave, and it is terrible in the sense that what you bake is runny on the bottom, and the top layer is 9 out of 10 times burned, so it just doesn't heat evenly. So that's why I just stopped baking, and hence I didn't necessarily need whisks anymore. So I didn't buy an electric mixer. And what I made the buttercream with, what is this thing on my wall? Can you see this thing? What is this? Oh my god, it's not on my wall. My laptop is dirty. Uh anyways, so last year when I was making the buttercream, I didn't have an electric mixer. So what I used was a handheld blender. Have you ever tried to cream butter with a handheld blender? Because I have, and it's really not pleasant, and it really doesn't get the job done. So that was torture, and it was extremely inefficient and extremely ineffective. So I feel like this also really contributed to my cake last year not being the best of cakes, but I'm still pretty proud of it, because I put a lot of effort into it. This was my first time making that type of a cake. Um and I also just like didn't really do research into how cakes with um glaze, no, that's not glaze, just buttercream, yeah, are done. I was just like, I'll just wing it. How hard could it be? And those are famous last words, and they were last words back then. But it's okay, because it was pretty. I liked it. And then this year I did some pretty extensive research before I started making that cake, because I was like, I want it to be perfect. Have I baked a cake since? No. Have I gained an ounce of experience in that type of cake making? No. Am I going to make the best cake there is? Yes. Because the thing is, I just decided that I am going to approach this cake with the mentality of a white man who goes up against an athlete who has dedicated their entire life to their sport, and just tells them, I can beat you. With zero training, zero experience, I can beat you because I'm a white man. So I just decided that this is the mentality I'm going to take in with myself as I approach this challenge. And honestly, I hate to admit it, but it kind of works. I feel like it's just this confidence, but also cockiness, and being like, I mean, because I was like, if men can do it, I can do it. How hard could it be? I know, again, famous last words, but I think she turned out more than beautiful. It was very much a trust the process type of situation. And I know I'm talking too much about this cake, but guys, this is like my biggest achievement. I'm so incredibly proud of it. And I just want you to know that let's turn this cake situation into a life lesson. So I, again, didn't have a mixer. I borrowed one from my housemate. I didn't have the proper oven again. I didn't have the proper utensils you need for cake decorating, and I didn't have a spatula. I didn't have like the correct mold. I just had a square that I had to cut into a circle, that I had to cut into a triangle, that I had to turn into a heart. So it was like very much a trust the process type of situation. And at times I myself wasn't fully sure if I trusted the process or not. Um, but I think the result is more than beautiful, and I'm incredibly proud of it. And basically, yesterday when I was making this cake, I realized that I miss baking so much. I just miss that type of hobby that you have to be so precise, because baking, unlike cooking, is not forgiving. Because with cooking, you can always save a dish somehow. But with baking, you really need to be precise. And if you mess up one thing, that's it. So you need to be hyper specific, and you need to be hyper focused on what you're doing. So I really did that. And can I just say that yesterday, when I went to buy the products for the cake, because I made the most simple vanilla cake. How are we using that much butter in this economy? Because obviously, when you make the layers themselves and the buttercream itself, that's going to demand a lot of butter. But in this economy, that kind of hurt. And then don't get me started on the eggs, because the eggs, bro, doesn't matter, because she's pretty, and that's all I care about. Like, she may taste like a like ass, I don't care, she's pretty. And so yeah, decorating this was definitely an endeavor, but it just reminded me of how much I love baking, and I really want to get into it some more. And it was just a really nice, quite a few hours of making this. I was watching Two Bro Girls. I ended up finishing Two Bro Girls without even knowing the Two Bro Girls is going to end, because I just binge, and I'm not reflective of the fact that I've watched like 5 episodes in a row. And obviously, I mean, if you've not watched the series, it may not be obvious to you, but this is a series that ends on a cliffhanger, because it didn't end, it was canceled. So I'm incredibly frustrated with that experience, because I didn't know. No one had informed me. So if it gets repicked up again, I will be sad and watching, because guys, come on, like, spoiler alert, Max got engaged. So you can't just like, what is going to happen? Is she going to move out and like leave Caroline the apartment? But Caroline is also dating someone, but I thought she would be again with Andy Candy. And it's just a lot, a lot. So that was really nice to watch while I was making the cake, because if you're not familiar with Two Bro Girls, it centers around these two pro girls who have a cake business, and they were like, they explored them uh creating their business, then their business failing, then recreating, then failing, then making a completely new idea. And I just felt like I was very on brand with my make do of the cake. And what I mean by make do is like, I didn't have any proper utensils, and I still made it make it happen. So let this be a testimony that you don't need to wait to have the proper equipment in order to start doing something. Because I didn't have a spatula, and if I had stopped this from um, me making the cake, I would just be eating, like, I don't know, this incredibly terrible pasta that I made yesterday because I used a pre-made sauce. Never again, never again. Only homemade sauces from now on, because what the hell was that? That was repulsive. Um and basically, I feel like this also relates to the podcast, because if I had waited, and I know I reflected on this a little bit, well, not a little bit, like in the 100th episode, but if I had waited to buy the microphone, to buy a camera, which I still don't have, to figure out the proper, more professional editing tools, to figure out everything, if I had waited to have the proper equipment to start podcasting, I would have never started podcasting. So, the same way I had to figure out how to make things happen, the things I wanted to happen, with the utensils I already had at home without having to go and buy extra utensils at an extremely expensive price that I'm going to use just once and never again. The same way I started this podcast 2 years ago, literally over there next to my heater, having drank alcohol because I just couldn't bear the thought of podcasting sober. And I just press record on the same, very same phone that I use as a camera now. I just used it as a microphone. And I was like, let's just figure it out. And it is so crazy to think about the fact that it's been 2 years, because those 2 years literally flew by. I I just, like, time is slipping through my fingers. Hello, hello. Um and it feels like, yes, it went by so fast, but at the same time, I sometimes struggle to remember a life before or a life without Dirty Martini, because Dirty Martini is such a prominent part of my day to day life. It is such a prominent part of who I am that I sometimes forget that it hasn't always been there. And I am so proud of, so 2024, so I was 22, but I created it in before my birthday, so I was 21, and I'm about to be 24. And so I just want to say to 21-year-old me, Martina, if there are like parallel universes and she's by any chance looking at this, or somehow, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh no, I'm tearing up. I knew it was going to be emotional. It's just I don't want it to get sappy, okay? I just don't have the capacity to cry right now. But thank you to the 21-year-old version of me who had the bravery to press record without knowing how to, without knowing what it would mean, and not only pressing record, but pressing publish. And I know it may feel weird talking about myself in the third person, but like sometimes I just feel disconnected from parts of I recognize that there's still a part of me, but I feel disconnected from parts of who I am, in a sense that so much time has passed and I've lived multiple times, lived multiple lives since Dirty Martini started. So I don't have too much in common with 21-year-old me, but at our core, we're still the same person. And I'm just so incredibly grateful and forever indebted to that young, brave girl who just was sick and tired of talking about doing something and not doing it. Because, and I've told you this before, I'm sorry if this is completely a repetition of last year's birthday episode. It's just I didn't listen to it. I don't remember what I said, because that's the beautiful thing about the podcast. For me, it's just a place where I come to vent. It's a place, it's an outlet. So when I come out here and I trauma dump everything on you, I feel lighter and I forget what I've said, which can very easily backfire sometime in the future if something I don't remember was said is being brought up. And I'm just like, I didn't say this. But then there's literally audio visual footage of me saying exactly that. But I can always claim that it's artificial intelligence, okay? Um, what was I saying? I don't remember. See, that's the thing though. Like, yes, I might have changed and I might have like 2 years of experience in podcasting, but in my core, I am still very much the same girl who 2 years ago just pressed record and started yapping everyone's ear off and has not shut up since and doesn't plan on shutting up anytime soon. And just when I tell stories, I do diverge. And I think that's okay. That's just the branding of the podcast at this point. If you expect a coherent story, I feel like you will not be able to find it here. Um, and I recognize that what I'm about to say is not really the way you go about stuff. Because as people, or specifically as women, we are expected to not boast. We're expected not to show off, but not in the sense of like to boost an ego or to boost an self esteem. You're just simply expected to be humble in the sense that you're expected to be negligent of your achievements and successes and brush them off, because if you celebrate an achievement or a success or be like, I actually deserve this because I put a lot of effort into it, it's going to come off as cocky. So while I know that I may be perceived as braggy and cocky for saying this, I am fine with that perception. Um, because I know I don't come from a place of, oh, look at how good I am or whatever. I am so incredibly proud of Dirty Martini as a space. I'm so incredibly proud that I created it. And I'm so incredibly proud of myself, period. I am so proud of myself for being so authentic, being true to myself, being unafraid to speak up for the things I believe in, being unafraid to take a stance. I am incredibly, incredibly proud of the fact that I have been doing this for 2 years and I have been showing up every single week. And even on the weeks when I didn't want to, even when I just wanted to do anything else but podcast. Because I won't lie to you, there are days, there are weeks when I don't want to podcast. But I'm so incredibly proud of myself for showing up. And this is not me not respecting my boundaries. This I perceive as me being disciplined. This I perceive as me being devoted to my craft, being passionate for it, and just wanting it. Because I feel like this is very reminiscent of Timothée Chalamet's speech that he gave, I want to say during the Oscars or just an award ceremony that he won an award at. I refuse to belittle my achievements. I refuse to belittle my effort because I know how much effort goes into the creation of this podcast. I know what it costs me in terms of anxiety because I, ironic, no, I know, I'm not the most extroverted person I used to be. I'm not anymore because the concept of an anxiety just penetrated my mind and poisoned it completely when I moved here. Um, I am. I refuse to belittle the efforts I put into this. I refuse to belittle the creativity I put into this. I refuse to belittle the passion I put into this. I refuse to belittle the discipline I put into this. I refuse to belittle the heart, soul, and mind I put into this. I refuse to belittle the time I put into this. I refuse to belittle my voice. I refuse to belittle the product. And I refuse to belittle the podcast because this podcast, it is a very small platform. It has just a couple of listeners. And this is not me belittling you as a listener. I'm just saying that in the grand scheme of media creation and like content creators, I am not known. I am nobody, but I still refuse to belittle this because this podcast may not be popular. This podcast may not get like, sometimes it doesn't even get, to be honest, more than 5 listens. Um, but still, I refuse to disregard this because I refuse to disregard the success this podcast is. And yes, it may not be topping charts. It may not be um, reaching a lot of audiences. It may not be listened to all over the world. It's a, like retention rate may not be great. The click through rate may not be great. None of this matters because I I know it's a success because it meets my standards of success. And as braggy as this sounds, not only do I feel extremely, extremely proud from what I create, by what I create, by what I put into this place, by the person I have become because of this place, I feel incredibly accomplished. And yes, I feel incredibly accomplished with my 5 listeners, one of whom is my mom, who doesn't speak English. I feel incredibly accomplished because this sense of accomplishment doesn't need to stem from how many listens I get, how many likes, shares, reposts, or whatever. This sense of accomplishment comes from me. It doesn't come from external validation. And I won't lie, external validation is really nice. It is very reassuring at times that I am putting across the message that I want to put across. It is reassuring that the podcast is perceived positively, or, and I'll dive into this in a second a bit. Um, but I cannot let the outside world, I cannot let what happens with the podcast once it is published define my experience with it, define my perception of it. Because once I publish it, the podcast is no longer solely mine. When I create it in my room, it's mine. Me here, talking to myself, talking to a camera, uh, uh, figuring out a new setup, if you've not noticed. This is what accomplishment entails for me, because this sense of accomplishment is very much defined by me recognizing every single ounce of energy that goes into this, and recognizing that, you know what, let me just put it like this. I was at a wedding once. I mean, I've only been to one wedding. And one of the guests, Dirty Martini, was very new. It was like 3 months old, I want to say. And one of the guests asked me, because it came up the fact that I have a podcast, and he asked me, why should I listen to you? Why, what makes your life so special that you choose to share it on the internet, that you think that it's post worthy, that you think people should devote their time to listen to? And the thing is, I think that Dirty Martini is a worthy space, not because I tell revolutionary stories, not because I am the best podcaster to ever exist, not that I'm, because like for ABCD. I think what makes this place special is the fact that it exists, the fact that I show up every week, and you don't have to listen to the stories I tell about my life and the way I experience adulthood or the way I try to navigate adulthood. This is not the special thing. The special thing is the fact that I simply do it. Because there, and I'm not trying to portray myself as better than anyone else, as holier than thou. That is in no way, shape, or form true. But the only thing that is separating me from someone who wants to create a podcast, from someone who has interesting stories, from someone who has interesting takes on popular or not that popular stuff, the only thing that is separating me from them is the fact that I just go a step further and I create a podcast. And again, this is not me. I am humble. Don't worry, I am humble. I am extremely grateful for the fact that people choose to spend their time with me. I'm extremely grateful for having received a predominantly positive response to the podcast. I am grateful and I am humbled by all of this. But in my humbleness, I feel like I still deserve to be proud. And I just don't want my humility, is that humbleness? I don't want my humbleness to belittle the effort I put into this, because I don't, that effort that I put into this is not to be belittled, because it just simply isn't. And I don't know if this podcast is ever going to grow in terms of audience. I don't know if it's ever going to top charts. I don't know if it's ever going to attract more viewers, more listeners. I don't know. And I'm coming to realize that I don't really care if it does. I mean, obviously, again, this external validation is a nice thing, but it doesn't solve all your problems. Um, because doesn't matter if Dirty Martini has 2 listeners, 5, 10, or 10,000. I still feel this sense of accomplishment. And I felt accomplished a year ago when I had 3 listeners, and I feel accomplished now when I have 7 or 10 or 20. Doesn't matter. Because those are purely numbers that I don't want to let define my experience with the podcast, because I don't want to create this content based on what's liked, based on what's clickable, based on what's trendy. I just want this to be a narration of my life. And it's very interesting because so recently, ever since Dirty Martini became a video podcast, I also started posting it on YouTube. And YouTube, I notice, is a platform that really sometimes pushes out your content to more people. It displays it to more people. It distributes it more than, I want to say, Spotify in my experience. So obviously, if more people are reached by the podcast, more people are going to react to it. And while the predominant response has been positive, I have to say that, and this, it's quite stupid to talk about because it's still relatively new and it's not something that consumes me, but it's something I have in the back of my mind. And that's why I feel the need to bring it up, especially because it's relating to the podcast. For example, some of my videos that I post on YouTube get more dislikes than likes, or half half. And this, at first, I was really taken aback by, in the sense that obviously I know that I am not everyone's cup of tea. I cannot be everyone's cup of tea. But I had just forgotten that just because I put effort into something doesn't mean that, and I appreciate the effort I put into it, doesn't mean it's going to be appreciated by everyone. And I mean, to be honest, a listen or a watch that's going to be to give me a thumbs down is still a listen or a watch. So it doesn't really matter per se, but it is something that the first, I want to say, 2 weeks affected me, or I thought about, because I was like, oh, this is a new challenge or a new hurdle, in the sense that, will I let this affect the content I create? Will I let it affect my relationship with the podcast? Will I let it affect me in terms of what I create? And I'm not saying that I'm getting flamed online or that I'm getting hate or I'm like heavily getting like canceled or whatever. I've just gotten like 5, 6, 10 dislikes or whatever. I've not counted them. Um and that's when I actually stopped looking at the numbers on YouTube, because when YouTube pushes it out and you're a small creator and you see that a video has 100 listens or 100 watches and normally you get 7, you're like, wait, what? This, am I famous? Like, do I need to get into trouble now and get canceled? Because what do I do? Like, do I go on Twitter and say something, I don't know, like extremely cancelable and extremely anti democratic? Um so I was, the first few days, weeks, really fixed on those numbers. And then the thumbs downs started coming in. And at first I was saddened, but then I realized it doesn't really matter, because whether someone likes it or dislikes it does not affect me, because I created this space for myself and I am creating this space for myself. To me, Dirty Martini, because like I told you in the beginning, time really is slipping through my fingers. And I feel like the older I get, the faster time flies by, and the less I am able to, I have the thing in my hand, don't worry. I the less I am able to recall certain stuff, or you know what? The less I am able to be present. And I feel like this is the main thing Dirty Martini brings to me: presence. Because every single week I tune in here, trying to be in tune with what I've been through, what I have felt, what I want to experience. And this is the biggest gift I could have ever received. And again, thank you to 21-year-old me. Um, because to me, this is such a precious space. Because if, let's say, I am privileged enough to grow older and I don't forget the English language, let's assume. I don't know if that will be a possibility, but let's assume I still speak English when I am 80. I feel like the oh, I'm tearing up. The podcast is going to act like a time capsule of what I lived through, who I was, and you know how they say that life, as you go, like before you're about to, like, croc like clock out, um you see like a reel of your experiences. And for me, this is what Dirty Martini is. This is the reel of experiences. This is the narration of my life. Obviously, I cannot encapsulate everything in an hour per week. But there are certain highlights which I cover on here. And I feel like this, to a person who is as sentimental as I am, is the biggest gift ever. Because when I created the podcast, I kind of thought about Good Luck Charlie and how Teddy creates vlogs for Charlie to listen to help her navigate life. And I just feel like this is very reminiscent of that, because I will be able to go back in time and listen to what I thought was so important in my life that I wanted to come on here and share it with you and voice it. And I think this is so interesting because it's also reminiscent of the diary that I keep every single day. Because that's the thing. I keep a diary every single day, so I already have an encapsulation of my life. And Dirty Martini is just the audio version of that. And as of recently, the uh, audio visual version of that. So through this, I can capture time, which seems to be slipping through my fingers. And it makes me feel like I still have some sort of agency and control, even though I really don't, because I cannot control time and I cannot control its passage and I cannot control how it's going to affect me. But it does give me that sense. And I was just thinking about like how relatable it is, related it is to Good Luck Charlie, in the sense that, let's say, I'm not talking about children, but like, let's say one day I have a child, or I have a niece or a nephew, or like just a child around me that is struggling to go through life and doesn't, if let's just say if I have a child and that child is struggling to go through life, it's struggling to navigate life, and a lot of the times children don't want to talk to their parents because of shame, because of fear, because of generational differences. And I feel like this could be such a perfect gift for someone's child, like a podcast, because it's going to humanize the parent and it's going to show the child that their parent can understand because they've also been through the stuff that they're going through. And I'm not trying to say that I'm having children or like having children anytime soon. It's just like, this is something that has also crossed my mind, that this is such a beautiful, I want to use the word legacy. Yeah, and I am going to use the word legacy because Dirty Martini is my legacy. It is not something I create because I have to. It's not something I create because I'm paid to do this. It's something I create because if I don't create Dirty Martini, I'm simply going to combust. This is the outlet which I need in order to sustain my life. And I feel so nice that it's not been tampered with in terms of money or views or whatever. And like, maybe one day those things will also come, but like, even if they don't, I don't want to let this affect my experience with the podcast. Even if they do, I don't want this to let me experience the podcast differently. Dirty Martini is something that I sometimes really think I should have created earlier. And I feel like I would have benefited a lot from it when I was younger. But instead of beating myself up for not creating it earlier, I am thankful for still creating it. And the fact that people care enough to tune in and listen is something I really don't take lightly. It's something I really, really appreciate. And when someone shares their experience with me, when someone tells me how listening to me talk about something has helped them in one way or another, how has helped them feel seen, feel understood, feel less lonely, this is all I could ask for. And this, I get this sense of accomplishment, I get. And I hope I never lose that sense of accomplishment. I hope I never lose my passion for Dirty Martini. I hope Dirty Martini, because it is so integral to who I am, I hope it continues to be. Even if, let's say, I stop posting, I mean, like, we're here to celebrate the fact that I post. But let's say I stop liking it and I choose to no longer create it or publish it. I hope I still create it even if I don't publish it. And I am forever thankful for this platform that I proposed to you and you gave me the space to position, you gave me the space to develop. I am thankful. I really, really am thankful. And I know that sometimes it may not sound like the stories I tell, they may not sound revolutionary or they may not sound as important as I am portraying them right now. Because is it really important to talk about that movie that I saw? Um, I know that in that sense, they're not revolutionary, but I feel like they don't need to be revolutionary in order to exist. And there is so much content out there. So much content is being published every single second. Content that we will never get to experience, content that we will never get to encounter, even because it's just that much. And in this over flooded ocean of content, I am forever grateful that you found me, I found you, and you pressed play. And if you stayed, thank you. If you didn't stay, thank you. I wonder if there is someone who's listened to all the episodes apart from me, because I obviously have to edit them, but I really wonder. If you have listened to all the episodes, do let me know, because you're absolutely mental and I absolutely love you. Um, but even if you've just listened to a snip, even if you've not listened to even a snippet, I still love you. Um, Dirty Martini has really helped me develop as a person, because it has really helped me open up to people, because I've always been an open book. I've always been a TMI person. I've always been an oversharer. I've never believed in taboo topics. I've always just talked, always and forever. But I feel like it added a layer of understanding, of humanness that I was missing before, in the sense that I felt very lost before Dirty Martini was created. And because I knew I craved its existence, but I didn't feel brave enough to create it. So, me creating it definitely didn't give me a sense of direction. I still feel very lost. And if you listen to any of the episodes, you probably can tell that I don't know what to do. I don't know who I want to be. Um, but the only thing I know is how much I love this podcast, how much it means to me, and how I don't want it to go away. And I may be lost, but Dirty Martini is giving me purpose. It may not be giving me a direction every now and then. It may not solve all my problems, but it's giving me purpose. Even if that purpose is just telling a story for me to listen to when I'm 80. And what a beautiful thing to have found your purpose that early on in life, because that means that now I get a lifetime of enjoying this, of being purposeful. And I'm not saying that it's my sole purpose in life, but it's definitely up there. And before I let you go, because I want to try the cake, I want to say that this could have been the, I want to say, 40th or 50th video episode of Dirty Martini, but it's only the what, sixth, or I never know how to pronounce that word. Sixth th or seventh. Um, and what I'm saying is that I could have long ago bought the microphone and just started video podcasting, but I didn't. I had the money for a bit of time, because when I set that goal to myself, I just started picking up extra shifts so that I can buy the microphone. And I just held on to the money for a couple of months, not buying the microphone. And I feel like it was just this self internalized fear of development, which is also accompanied by leaving your comfort zone. And I just feel like, so the reason I'm mentioning this is because at times I do regret not starting Dirty Martinier. I do at times regret not buying the microphone earlier, not starting to video podcast earlier. But that regret is not productive. And that regret is not something that I want to live with. So, by me expressing it now and saying that I have this regret and that I should have done this earlier and I should have done this like this and I shouldn't have done it like that, I am forgiving myself. I'm forgiving myself for being scared to act sometimes. I praise myself for doing things despite being scared. I forgive myself for not always wanting to podcast and putting it off and procrastinating, but I still praise myself for showing up. I regret not speaking about certain things, not bringing up certain topics, but I still praise myself for the ones I did. But most of all, I praise myself, as cocky as this sounds again. I know this self praise can be perceived very like as me being arrogant. But God forbid a girl is just proud of herself. Um, I praise myself for having an idea, having a dream, and following it, despite not knowing how, despite not knowing what it means, despite at times questioning that dream, despite at times letting external factors determine or influence the satisfaction with that dream. Because Dirty Martini is my dream, and it is a dream that's been fulfilled. It's a dream in fulfillment, and it's a dream I'm going to continue on fulfilling as long as I find pleasure in it. But with that being said, for the second year in a row, for I don't know, like I want to say 106, is it 106 weeks in a row? I want to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your support. It means everything. Thank you to myself for the beautiful cake, which is hopefully going to be tasty. Thank you to 2021. No, 20. When did I? 2024. So I was 21 in 2024. But I'm born in 2002. It was just like, whatever. Um, Thank you to that 21-year-old girl who created this space. Thank you to the 22-year-old who kept it up. Thank you to the 23-year-old that developed it. And I am excited for what the 24-year-old me has to bring with herself to this space. And last thing I promise. It's really interesting how, because I've been telling you that I'm really dreading my birthday. And my birthday is not something I'm looking forward to at all, because it's something that just terrifies me, because the concept of aging is just it paralyzes me with fear, despite it being a privilege. It's very interesting how I did not approach Dirty Martini's birthday that way, because Dirty Martini's birthday I just perceived as we're celebrating an accomplishment. So I wonder if I can just change my perspective on my personal birthday, which is going to be like in less than 3 weeks. Yeah. And to see if I, by switching the perspective, can let go of that dread, can let go of that fear, and just start enjoying it and celebrating it. Because birthdays it's nice to celebrate. Oh, crazy concept. It's nice to celebrate birthdays. It's nice to celebrate being alive. And I just really, it's interesting. It's interesting the different approaches, because this one I was not dreading. This one I was looking forward to. And yes, I didn't want to spend it with anyone. I wanted to be by myself, because I have been extremely burnt out and overwhelmed, and my social battery is -10. So I really just wanted to be by myself and recharge, and I managed to do that for the most of it. There's still more to desire, but there's always something more to desire and to want. Um, but it's interesting how different I approach, and they're literally, my birthday is like in less than 3 weeks, and I am terrified of that. But this one I was looking forward to. So hopefully I can just let this excitement spill over to my birthday, so that I'm not paralyzed with fear. Because as much as this is an achievement, me also growing older is an achievement that hopefully I will get to experience. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like at this point I'm just saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff, and I'm also, my eyes are closing, but I want to try the cake, but I don't know if I should try the cake because the cake has a lot of sugar in it, and I don't know if it's going to keep me up at night. But I also don't sleep good throughout the night anyway, so might as well just have some cake. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.